Welcome to another episode of the Sport of Bowling Show. On this week's show, we feature USBC Executive Director Chad Murphy, General Manager of South Point Casino, Hotel, and Spa, Ryan Growney, Vice President of Government Affairs at Eldorado RENO, Rick Murdock, Bowlers Journal International Editor Jean-Marc Manzione, InsideBowling.com founder Mike Flanagan. And now, it's time for the Sport of Bowling Show.
Hey, happy Friday. Hope everybody's doing well out there in the bowling world. We've got a great show for you today with Ryan and Rick from Las Vegas and Reno, our great partners. One of the really cool things about this job is all the great partners that we have that support bowling within our industry, but then also externally. When you start to think about all the cities that we hold tournaments in and all the things, no better than these two with Ryan and Rick. So really excited to have them on the show. Going to bring Jean-Marc in first, like we do every week. Hey, Jean-Marc, how are you?
Hey, Chad, I'm well. How are you?
Good. Hey, I wanted to tell you lots of good things I saw out of your group this week, but I thought it was interesting how Tom Clark's letter was positioned and how much great information there was there. I enjoyed it. I actually had a call with Tom this morning and we were talking through some stuff, but I just thought that was really cool. But what's happening in your world in this another week in the COVID-19 world?
Yeah, I loved the Tom piece as well. I think Tom makes some really excellent, really smart points in there about basically flat out saying that the financial crisis 12 years ago was an existential threat for the PBA. It forced, sort of their backs against the wall, and they had to come up with what Tom describes in that piece as some crazy ideas. And sometimes when your back's up against the wall, those crazy ideas can have a tendency to stick. And that's the point that Tom's making. And Chad, I don't need to tell you, you're executive director of a sports organization. It's going to take some imagination, some creativity, and some daring to find our way forward in an unprecedented environment such as the one we face. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that about the Tom Clark piece. I thought it was really smart, really interesting read. And I hope people will go to bowlersjournal.com and check that out. As for Bowlers Journal, we're wrapping up the June issue of Bowlers Journal right now. Two of the pieces I want to highlight are a piece about proprietors and how they're getting a little feisty at this point because they would like to be trusted a little more than they feel like they might be getting from state, local governments as to how exactly to reopen. Because as one proprietor told me, Chad, he's been running bowling centers for 58 years, and that's longer than the governor of his state has been alive. And so his point is, maybe I know something about this. Maybe I do have some expertise to draw from. Maybe, dare anyone suggest it, the owners of small businesses want nothing more than to provide the safest possible environment for their customers. And so maybe we don't necessarily need our hands held or need regulations crushing down on us as we're trying to figure this out, because they know as well as anyone else that it's within their best interest to provide as safe a possible environment for their customers. And I think the argument that they're trying to make is that there is a balance between shutting down until we have a vaccine and finding a way to reopen before then. And it might be possible to do so. So the proprietors in that story provide some ideas to that extent. And second story, and lastly, that I would highlight, Chad, is we have a piece on how pros are waiting out this pandemic. Pros are discovering new passions. They're experiencing a change in their perspective about some really weighty things. And I spoke with them at length about that, a number of them from the PWBA and PBA sides. And so we'll have some reporting on that in June as well.
I thought the Bill O'Neill's the real deal there, his perspective of what we choose to kind of complain about. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because I really do think that the things that we're thinking about these days are a little bit different.
Absolutely.
But I echo your sentiment on the proprietor piece. I look forward to reading it as I do every month. Let's bring Mr. Flanagan in. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good. The Rob Stone interview, the beginning of that, as someone that is IT challenged, I loved how you handled it. I thought it was wonderful. I have Rob's, personality in it. For everybody who hasn't seen it, the interview was great too. But I've just thought that piece of it, because those are the fears of those of us that aren't as good at the IT as you are. But also the Brad and Kyle, Robbie and Mike interviews this week, I thought were spot on.
Yeah, we had a good week. I mean, every week it's just been a blessing to be able to do this. One of the things with the coronavirus is, there's a lot of negatives with it, but there's some positives too. We've been inspired to start this show that we've been doing daily. We said we'd do 40 of them, and this week we had Rob Stone on Monday, like you mentioned, which was a great show. And I really appreciate Rob even taking the time to want to come on the show. So we do appreciate that. And then we had Bold DMC with Darren Tang, Mikey Tang, and Chris Vi on the program as well. And those guys are really pioneering the Twitch platform, which a lot of bowlers don't even know about. But they're doing some really great things on a new platform, and we were able to dive into that. And then of course Brad and Kyle, the big draw, the guys that we're very close to, was a really great show. And then yesterday was one that I felt a certain sense of responsibility. I had more people reach out to me in regards to Robbie Spigner and Michael Fagan being proprietors of the centers in Minnesota, and a certain responsibility to that show to get their message out, to either be inspired or to just hear the real of what they thought. And I really thought they offered some good perspective yesterday on where they're at and how they see a lot of opportunity here. One of the things I take away from that show is they said, bowling in the past has been through things like this with economical downturn, and less people are flying and going to do different things, and it keeps bowling closer to home. People will go find things to do at home, and bowling it could be a positive. So interesting stuff. Today we had Mike Shady on. We were talking with him before I came over to this show, but it's great to see all the bowling media stuff that's going on. And one other thing is as I come on this show, and as I prepared for this show, I think this is going to be a really good one here. I'm looking forward to listening to the two gentlemen that we have today. And if you're watching and you're a fan of the show, I would encourage you to go out and share this program and this show with other people. Because I think the messages that are going to come out today on this show are going to be very important that a lot of people need to hear.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And when you really, Robbie and Mike, the show was really interesting for that perspective. And I think this is all the media that you're talking about is also, we always use these words, right? Super, fantastic, fascinating, all the things. But, a show with Robbie and Mike, and I pitched them a text afterwards. And so it was nice to share some text back and forth with them last night. But then Brad and Kyle, it really is a different audience, but both of them, both those shows would be interesting to most folks. They're just different shows. And so before I bring our guests in, I just want to let everybody know, in that same kind of Robbie, Mike, and then when John Mark, is talking about the PBA, we're going to try to bring all the worlds together next week. Really excited about the two gentlemen that'll be joining us. But Mike Albee and Dave Husted will be on the show next week. And I really appreciated that they were willing to come on, and just wanted to let everybody know that show will, yes, somewhat be about their bowling, but we'll be focused mostly in on their roles as bowling proprietors in this COVID-19 world. You can't talk to those guys without, they both smile a lot. They're wonderful human beings, and we wouldn't talk to them without having some bowling as part of that. But they're also proprietors, and I've kind of been thinking about the central message, right? Are they Hall of Famers? Are they bowling proprietors, or are they small business owners in this larger world? And so I'm looking forward to that next week. I hope everybody will join us, and hope you two will as well. It should be a great show. So with that, let's bring in our first guest. He's the Mr. Everything at South Point Casino. JT, if you don't mind, would you just show the folks the image of Ryan Growney there throwing a shot to open up the South Point Bowling Plaza a few years ago? And Ryan, come on in here. Hopefully you can see that image. People don't know that you're an athlete and a business person and a heck of a bowler there in a tie, which is probably a little different than most folks. But feel free to share any opening comments that you might have, Ryan, while we take a look at you as a bowler.
Is there a video with that? Because that ball ended up in the gutter.
Well,
I look good there. I look good, but
we did show your promo video of you guys dating the championships and promotions. So they got to see you throw a strike yesterday that might have been digitally enhanced, but Anyway, you got any light thoughts started out? Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having us. So many aspects of this property have been, obviously, of this world have been affected, and but bringing it down to the South Point level, it is bowling is such a large part of what we do here, and it's always been a large part of the Gone family and his legacy. I don't know who was first, Samstown or Gold Coast, but Gold Coast opened in '86 with a bowling center, and then he opened Gold Coast, Orleans 10 years later, Suncoast, South Coast, and then I think the crown jewel for him and his Baron of Bowling legacy is the tournament facility, and the partnership we have with the USBC has become such a big deal to us at this property of what we do annually. And the Open Championship, Women's Championship is the pinnacle, but then a lot of the other events that we do in that facility, and it's all of our events, our arena and equestrian center, and everybody's just clamoring to get back to doing what they love, whether it's horses or bowling or gambling, and they're calling us daily. When can we open? When can we come back? And we want that just as much as everybody else. But we'll dang sure be happy to watch them bowls rolling down the lanes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Before we get into the heavy stuff, I also wanted to share, we got a picture of your newborn that JT is going to pop up. I think these are those kind of interesting things that go on in this world. I know, this is maybe a new experience for you in addition to all the other things that you do, but wanted to share that with you. And if you have a perspective for everybody, of your family and what's going on, at this time, that'd be great too.
It's scary. It's scary. So when the shutdown happened, that's Scarlett Catherine Growney. She was born December 6th last year. So when the shutdown time, she was 3.5 months or so. So new parents, me and my wife, Sierra, brand new parents. And, we're making our way through it and we're doing pretty good. And all of a sudden this happens and you're scared to death. Right. And before anybody knew what this really was. And so, coming home, you can't close these casinos down. There's no locks on the door. So, and we had a team in place. So I was here and I'd go home and, I'd take everything off in the garage and shower before I came in and brush my teeth and whatever else I could think of to do before I walked in the house. Because we were scared, and a lot of families are going through that. And then there's also a lot of families that aren't working right now, which is even scarier. So, but that's a little campaign we did. So our slogan's always been, we love you more. And so we came up with, we miss you more. And we had a bunch of our employees. I needed 30 pictures, and I probably got 250 employees in their backyard with handmade signs. We had one of our groups that are working went across the street with a picture of the South Point in the background. And the employees, they miss our customers just as much as our customers miss us. And so that's something we did there. And cute picture, my little crazy dog, Tana, little golden doodle. She's pretty fun. So it was just something we could do to try to show our customers out there that we're here, we're getting ready, we're doing a lot of work. I swear, me and Michael Gahn were talking the other day, and we're working harder now than we were when we're open, and we're not making any money. So it's a two-way tough spot. So
yeah, I appreciate you doing that part with me. I think one of the things that people don't realize, and a lot of times, is yes, you're a titan of industry in Las Vegas, but you also have a family and you're a human being as well. And we all are. And so I appreciate you doing that. And our next guest, want to bring him in, a longtime friend of bowling, Rick Murdock from out in Reno, Nevada with the Row. Rick wears a lot of hats out in Reno. When I made my first trip out, a number of years ago, Rick was one of the first people I met. He sat on the RSCBA board at the time, was working with the mayor's office, but then also with the casinos with the Row, which was Silver Legacy at that time. But Rick, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. I'm excited to have you today. Just give us any light thoughts you might have about this COVID-19 world and how it's impacting you.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for allowing me to be here. I'm kind of the veteran of the group, but and I'll tell you, it was funny. My wife's an ICU nurse, so when it first came out, I've been locked down. She said because of my age, technically a little bit, but no problems, and it's been great. But when you have 3 daughters, I'll tell Ryan this. I have 3 daughters, so it's tough when you're all in the same house. It gets kind of crazy, if you know what I'm saying. But it really it's been good because as a family, you get to know each other really, really well. even my wife and I, we kid about it. It's been great to have her, but I'm sure I'm getting on their nerves. They want me out of the house, but I've been making trips downtown, and I do go into the El Dorado, and I'm able to go in there because obviously it's like going into, remember Jack Nicholson in the movie The Shining? You walk into these huge casinos and they're closed, and kind of interesting. I've been there 37 years. I've never seen a closed casino, if you can imagine. So it's quite an adventure now.
Yeah, and Rick, I'm glad you went to your family, because obviously that was the next topic. But one of the things that I enjoy when I sit and talk to Rick, and of course there's business throughout most of the day, and then we always end up talking about our kids and your 3 girls and your wife. So I appreciate you going there. And I, like you, have a group that's not used to me being at home either, so I can relate to that as well. It's a little bit of a challenge. I'm going to open it up to John, Mark, and Mike. I know they've got some questions, and I'll pop in and out. And but really, thank you for being here. And we're just really proud of the relationships that we have with your city. And I know the impact of bowling is great that it has on your cities. But I'll open it up to John, Mark, and Mike, and they'll pepper you for a little while, and we'll have a little fun a little later.
Hey, Ryan, I was so happy to hear you talk about the pent-up demand for the sport of bowling, because that's what I'm hearing from the many proprietors at this point that I have interviewed in recent weeks. One proprietor told me that if he had $50 for every person who asked him if they could come bowling during this closure, he might be a wealthy man today. What more can you tell us, Ryan, about the signs that you're seeing that indicate to you that this situation has created some pent-up demand for the sport that may mark a pretty sizable return to the sport when the opportunity to do so arises?
And it goes, the pent-up demand is across the board, whether it's horse shows or bowling. We opened up a drive-through sports book, so you can bet on your sports app, and now you have UFC and NASCAR, and that's it. So I want to give my customers the ability to be able to fund that app. And so we let them drive through, make deposit, or sign up for the app. We had mask and gloved employees out in valet. They never got out of their car. And I was just doing it because of the commitment to our customers. And I couldn't, they were lined up. We opened at 11. They were lined up at 10 o'clock. And there was no reason. They just wanted to get that feeling back. Same thing with bowling. People that are out with their friends, they miss the camaraderie. They miss having a beer. They miss blowing off steam. They miss being there and seeing and the competition. And I know I've had customers. Can you just put a slot machine in the parking lot? Can I just come in and throw one game? There's no one else. Just don't tell anybody. And guys, I can't do it. So especially with the 2 centers, and we're getting it from all fronts. We're getting it from open bowling. We're getting it from leagues that obviously there've been some cancellations. Obviously, the tournaments have had some cancellations. So all 3 factors are definitely impacting us. So we have a strong plan in place when we reopen. I think we're going to be pretty busy, at least in the short term, while everybody kind of comes out, checks it out, sees what's going on, make sure they feel safe. And I think our plan that we're going to finalize this afternoon and submit to the Game Control Board, which includes the component on bowling. And Mike Moniak, you guys all know him, and I love him. He was the first manager I had that was sitting in my office with his plan to reopen, and it was like 5 days after closing. I was like, Mike, I haven't even got to play shutdown yet. Then we'll talk about reopening. But that's Mike. You guys know him. We love him. And so he's got a plan in place that I think is going to be good. I think people are going to be comfortable with it, and we're going to see him. We're going to see him coming out. We can't wait to have him.
Well, Ryan, one conversation I had with a proprietor recently turned to how quickly he'll be able to reopen when he's given the okay to do so by state authorities. And he said, well, let's see. I live 12 minutes away from my house. Maybe it'll take me a minute to open the doors. So I'll be open in 13 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's and we don't know. Like, they just gave permission to Las Vegas casinos to open their restaurants. Well, my restaurants lose $800,000 a month. So we're not in any hurry to get them open without the other aspects of the property, and you have to have outside access, and you're not allowed to traverse the casino is the language they use. So we're not going to open them yet. But if we could open our bowling centers, I would. If we had outside access and I could give these people a release and do it, we would do it in a second. And I don't know how long the lead will be. The governor gives us before he says we can reopen. But ASAP. We will have our doors open, and that includes the bowling center.
I got a question for Rick. I think coming from a bowler's perspective and with Open Championships and what's going on in Reno, I've seen a lot of things about all the upgrades, not only to the facility itself, but also what's going on around the area. Could you speak to some of the things that once we do get back to bowling that the folks in Reno will be looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. What's interesting is I did tour the National Bowling Stadium yesterday with the interim CEO, Jennifer Cunningham of the RCBA, and we both were just amazed. I think for all of you, again, just like Ryan said, we're bullish on bowling. We love it, and we're going to do everything we can to try and make it happen in Reno. But the stadium, oh my gosh, it came out fantastic. And I gotta really tell you the truth. Thank God we were able to get Chad and his team involved with the architects and the things that we did. And I'll tell you what, the stadium yesterday, it's really nice. And I can tell you, it's going to be easier to have to do the 6 foot distancing. It's a very positive in that stadium because it's so big, Mike, that you can do a lot in there. And I'm sure Chad and his team are working out how they're going to make every lane safe. And you're looking at the new furniture. You're looking at the settees are all redone. I was really impressed with the squad room. It's got it looks just like the Kingpin Club with brick on the walls. It's kind of a real cool design. Brand new art all over in the building. Like I said, they took some of that older carpet off. It feels great. It's open. New bathrooms, and then the new grab and go rest. For food and beverage is really cool. It's exciting. I mean, it's as stunning as it looks right now. It's great. And the colors, it's great colors.
Yeah, Rick, in 1997, I got to participate in the first junior gold. I believe it was 97 as I'm getting older here and trying to remember my dates. But I remember just before that, Kingpin was shot in that facility, the epic scenes from Kingpin. And with the new look, maybe we could effort or put something together to have a Kingpin 2 maybe shot in the new look of the facility. What do you think about that?
I really like it. And you guys have, I probably heard, but El Dorado Resorts is in the middle of merging with Caesars and Harrah's. As you know, it's I don't know if you follow us much, but the good news is that with the Carano family involved in this, and just like the South Point with Michael Gahn, they're so invested in bowling, and they're taking that message to Caesars, which is really going to help us in Reno because I think we love what bowling has done, and we want to be a good partner. And this gives us another opportunity, I think, to really push the sport of bowling through the Caesars streams. And I'm really excited about that. I think that's something that we all want to work out. And like you said, let's do the Kingpin tournament. Let's get Bill Murray back. When he came here for that, he was in Brew Brothers throwing pizzas off the ceiling. And I tell the best story. He was on the crap table, and everybody's looking at him, and he says, the guy next to him, he says, "Here, give me the dice." And he says, "Oh, here's $100. Now get out of my way. I'm going to win this hand." I mean, Bill Murray, it was hysterical. But anyway, wouldn't that be good for the sport of bowling if we could bring back Kingpin 2 or something, or a tournament, call it the Kingpin tournament, with partnering with all you guys and getting this done? It'd be fun.
That would be really cool. Jean-Marc, I'll throw it back over to you.
Ryan and Rick both, I'm wondering if there are any ways in which the pandemic's impact has differed between your cities. Are there any ways in which its impact in Las Vegas might be in any way different than its impact on Reno? And if so, why and how?
Go ahead, Ryan. You first, if you like.
Complete shutdown, I think, is complete shutdown wherever you are. Obviously, the scale is what it is. So number of employees is greater here because there's more. But as far as businesses, small businesses, employees, owners, facilities, I would say it has the same impact because shutdown is shutdown. I mean, we're all following by the same rules. So I would be curious here, Rick. And by the way, Rick, that facility looks amazing. I was looking forward to coming up this year for the Open. So congratulations. I can't imagine it's been much different because same rule book. We're both under the same guidelines. So can't imagine it's much has changed.
Yeah.
John Mark, it's interesting for us. We're obviously a smaller city than Vegas, so I was just, I track all the numbers, but our cases are probably not as big as a lot of other cities. We've got about 1,150 cases, and we've had some obviously some deaths from this, which is sad. But 19 of them came from one nursing home, so that's kind of interesting. 19 in one nursing home of the 45 total. So I guess it tells you that it's really preys on the elderly. It's sad, but it's just it is what it is, and we feel terrible. But Reno probably isn't seeing it. And then we look at, you guys know, Northern Nevada is a little more rural than obviously Las Vegas. We've got Carson City down the road, and Minden, and some of these other city towns up north. They're not seeing it obviously like the big places. So that's probably a good thing. I think, but what I have noticed, and I tell you, it's funny, since the governor did pull off the ban, I think for small restaurants, you can't go to a bar. Even if you're a bar restaurant, you can serve food in the restaurant. But what I've seen, and I want to kind of reiterate what Ryan said about pent-up demand with bowling and our customers, I think people are clamoring to get out. Now, to what degree, our hotel reservations, we've been taking them, and it seems like we're getting a good footprint going forward. We think, and Ryan, you can jump in on this call, we've heard as early as May to open, or as early as June 1st. So it's kind of interesting for us, and at least they let us possibly open a restaurant and we can start the process of getting ready to open. But like Ryan said, when you have 4,000 rooms and over 20 restaurants at the Row, we just can't open up and turn the key tomorrow. But the other side of this too, and you guys will probably get to that, but it's going to be a big, tall order, and we're up to it. We've got to get our employees ready for this, and that's number one, is safety of the employees and the guests, and then the cleaning. So trust me, I think the pent-up demand's there. I've seen it in our little restaurant, just people going, I got to get out. And they come in with masks, or they don't. It's just crazy. I think you'll see, as it gets a little bit better, safer, you'll see. I agree with Ryan. I think the tournaments, everything's going to come back. It's just, when we get open and when we can get it going. People want to be here.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in here a little bit about just being a bowler coming to both of your cities. Whenever we go to Reno, as soon as I get in on a shuttle, or I take a taxi somewhere, because everybody for the most part likes to stay downtown close to the walking distance of the stadium. I always have the taxi cab drivers or the shuttle, bowling's going on, and it's such a boom for the city. And I know how important it is to Reno. Then over on the Las Vegas side, obviously it's a larger city and it's got a larger economical landscape than just bowling. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask Ryan, in the South Point there, you guys have a lot of other things going on in that facility. You guys have a lot of events that happen in the other stadium, the rodeo stadium, the horses, all that sort of stuff. But to the bowling fans that are out there watching this show today, how important is bowling to your property? And then Rick, if you'd take it afterwards and talk about how important bowling is as well.
It's the single most important thing we offer. It's always been important, but the plaza, to your point, the effect that center has on that city, we get that same impact at kind of one property. Now, there obviously is, we cap our rooms to make sure that there are rooms going to some of the other casinos where customers have relationships, whether it's the Orleans or Gold Coast or Stations. And we think that's important because we do want to make it more of a citywide event, though it's a little harder here. But the Open Championship followed by the Women's Championship are the two largest events we do. We do have the Arena and Equestrian Center. We'll do 44 weeks of equestrian-related events in that equestrian center. Every type of horse show. We do rodeos, bull ridings, team ropings, barrel racings. But if you add up all the people that facility kind of drives through there and take out the World Series of team roping, more people participate in the Open Championship. So, when you look at it from that standpoint, that one event drives more head counts than all the arena events that we do. And the arena is 500,000 square feet. So that footprint dedicated to the property to drive those bodies. Well, we were able to accomplish that with the tournament facility, and it's an amazing feat. And the other thing, why it's like NFR is our busiest week of the year, and we have the World Series of Team Roping, which is the third richest equestrian event in the world. $13.6 million were given away last year, but it jams up the property to a point where it drives me crazy. I mean, I hate seeing lines. I want people to get a beer and get on a blackjack table. We put in extra games. The check-in lines are a little longer than I'd like them to be and things of that nature. But the bowling comes in, and it's so impactful to us. But one, bowlers are wonderful people, right? They're just good people, and if you give them a good shake and give them a good experience, they're just happy, and I just love them. But it's such a long event that it doesn't jam up the property, so it gives you this boost to business. But a lot of people don't realize, and I have to explain it to them, that hey guys, these bowlers, they are just as important as our rodeo fans. They go, well, I thought it was going to be like the NFR. Well, it can't be like the NFR for 5 months. But I show them the numbers, and they're just flabbergasted. And so we try to do as much as we can. So we turned our Del Mar Lounge into the USBC Lounge in the middle of the casino. 12 months a year, our main center bar is a USBC Lounge, and we want our bowlers to understand how important they are to us. And we try to do some of those things to communicate that.
Ryan and Rick both, again, how surreal has it been for each of you to see your respective cities shut down? I mean, I think we've all been as mesmerized by the ghost town that is the Strip in Las Vegas as we have been by the ghost town that has been Times Square in New York City. What has that been like as people who are as familiar with your respective cities as you are, who are used to seeing those parts of your towns just absolutely bustling? Can you just give us a sense of, as people who are more intimately attached to those cities than others, because you are such important, integral parts of your respective communities. What has it been like? How surreal has that been for you guys?
It's heartbreaking for me. I mean, we did so about 10 days into the closure. My wife and I grabbed the baby and we drove down it just because it's never happened. My boss is the longest serving. He told me the other day, is the longest serving gaming license person in Nevada, which then you can extrapolate to the world because people have been licensed here longer. So he's the longest gaming person licensed in the state of Nevada. And he says, Ryan, I thought I'd seen it all. 57 years he's been licensed in this state. And he said, I was wrong. And it's just, he thinks they closed down for 3 hours either when JFK got shot or for the funeral. And other than that, like I said, there's no locks on the doors. We had to go buy chains and padlocks and wrap them around there.
Wow.
And there's no physical lock. And somebody said, well, you should have put locks on. I said, we've been open 15 years. We would have lost the keys by now.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you see it in the movies sometimes, right? They take the Strip and they do things to it and they land planes on it, whatever. But it's almost zombie apocalyptic. You just can't believe what you're seeing. And then you get the sense of just how many employees and the families that are impacted. And it's devastating. Out at the South Point, we're out here on the south end of the Strip a little bit more. And we have a small crew in the casino. We left our lights on. I said, Mr. Gahn, you want to shut the lights off, save a little power? He goes, leave the lights on. I want everybody to know we're still here. And so we left our lights on. We have security posted at all things. We left, slot machines are blinking. Music's still playing in the casino for the people that are here. So once you get in the building, it's a little better. And you don't, like, around us is kind of a little more desolate. So you don't feel it as much, which makes me happy, because if I had to drive to the Strip every day and report to work, every day would just be it just provides you so much angst. It's sad.
Yeah, Rick, I'd like to follow up on the last question that I had. I don't think we really had an opportunity for you to chime in on that. But just the overall importance of bowling in Reno for you. I know you have a lot of other things that are going on all the time, but just the importance of bowling and how important the bowlers are that come out there.
It's interesting because in Reno, such a small city, you guys, when you bring the bowlers in here, it's like probably the biggest event that we have. It's the biggest convention we've ever had here. When I call convention, I mean the amount of people that come through here, the city, and it impacts everything. I hear all the time from my friends at the golf courses and different pubs and restaurants, when are the bowlers coming back? They're always asking that question too, because it is absolutely impacted us, and the bowlers are a huge fish in this little pond. And that's kind of the way best I could say it to you all, that everybody loves them. They want them back. Downtown, you asked the other question too. It's like that song that the Rolling Stones just put out, "Living in a Ghost Town." You probably heard it. It's their brand new one, but it's funny as heck. Ryan said it, driving downtown, it's apocalyptic. It's almost like, I think we're going to have the movie, the zombie attack, but it's hurts me because I've been in it, and I know a lot of people that are affected by this in our numbers and our employees. And thank God we do have a lot of them working as best we can. And like I said, bowling overall affects everything about this whole thing in Reno. And I'll tell you what, and Tahoe too. When I say the region, you guys drive our airport here, and our airport is so much smaller than even Las Vegas. And you are the big fish when the bowling congress is here, the airport's seeing all the bowlers come through. I mean, it's really impacted for us. And I got to tell you, the RSCVA realizes this. The mayor of Reno realizes this. Everybody knows what the bowlers really do to the bottom line and the health of this whole city.
Awesome. Ryan, I have a question for you. Really kind of just more of a story here. Mike Moniak, I know Mike Moniak very well, and obviously you do as well, as he runs the bowling operations there. And it's going on 5 or 6 years now, maybe 7 years, that when you opened up the new stadium, so to speak, you already had, I believe it was 80 lane beds upstairs. Talk about the decision and the idea of adding that many more lane beds in a facility that already had a multitude of lane beds, and why that was important.
So Mike has been talking about trying to attract the Open Championship here for a long time, and actually there was going to be a casino opening in North Las Vegas that Michael Gahn was talking about building, and if he got that on, the first event would have been the Open Championship before the leagues moved in and all those things, because you obviously can't, you guys know, you can't host that tournament in a center that's already operating. So that was one plan, and then there was drawings at the Orleans Casino to build this facility, and I wasn't around for those. It was Christmas Eve. I think it was Christmas Eve, my first year here, which was 2010. And Mike came to me, and I was at Sam's Town in 2009 when it was at Cashman Center, and saw the impact, but didn't really wrap my brain around how big this thing was. And so Mike came to me and sat down, and he says, "I want to talk to you." They're talking about the next couple of rounds of this next couple of years, awarding the tournament to different cities. And so he educated me on this thing, and he's reeling off these numbers and number of room nights and number of people and I'm going, time out. So I start writing this down and looking into it, and I said, all right, let me run some numbers, call my construction guy. What would this take? How could we get this done? And I said, this thing it's a no-brainer. We have to figure out a way to make this happen, not only for the South Point, but for this town. I argue that you can't be the sports capital of the world without a football stadium. We have one now. It's opening in a couple of months. And with the 2 NASCAR races, 4 conference basketball championships, a pretty dang good hockey team, an NFL team coming down, the UFC headquarters, our minor league baseball, arena and equestrian center, and now the one of only 2 tournament bowling centers in the United States. I thought it was important for town, and this is something that we could provide and help that claim that we're the sports capital of the world. So we figured it all out and took it to Michael Gahn, and it I don't know if it was a 45-minute conversation. He said, let's do it. And let's do it. Let's see if we can get this done. But it impacted the equestrian center, because in the place of the plaza, we had an outdoor covered arena that the arena was using, but we needed more arena space for the equestrian center. And so, man, the equestrian center was booming. We needed more arena space. This was a possibility. We ended up talking to Stu originally and finally Chad, and everything went together. Now our arena and equestrian center is the premier facility in the United States, and then just one of 2 bowling tournament facilities in the country. It just was perfect timing, and everything worked out wonderfully, and we couldn't be happier that we made that move. But Mike Moniak, he's third time he tried to bring it here and finally got it on. I'm glad he waited till I was around to do it.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, if I could pop in there, one of the things that I think is important to note, you guys, you can hear it when you guys talk about it all the time, but when I landed in this role on my first trip out to Reno and then Las Vegas, I met some folks that I didn't know. And, one of those folks was Glenn Carano and the Carano family. And then of course, I remember Ryan sitting in Mr. Gaughan's office for the first time when you introduced him to me. Those two folks, two families, if you will, have been very important to bowling over the past 30 years, if you really think about it. And you really, get into the big picture of it. And I know you guys represent them, and we love what you do and the talk about Mike. But could you both each, and Rick, if you don't mind going first, speak to, the entire Carano family. And in both cases, both groups, actually, it's not just in Vegas. Glenn sat on the BBL board, and I remember when Mr. Gaughan flew into the BBIA convention a couple years ago, Ryan. So could you guys just kind of give the viewers, how important those families are to bowling? I think it's important, if you don't mind.
Well, thank you, Chad. It's interesting you said that about Glenn, and Glenn, was a UNLV quarterback, and he loves Vegas too. It's kind of nice that bowling's really situated in both ends of the state. And Don Carano, when he had this vision, along with, I can go back and think about who the fathers of bowling were here, and thank God for that, because it really has. I say this, and you'll hear it when we had our last downturn, and you guys all remember that. Thank God for bowling. I mean, they probably did more for the city of Reno than we could ever ask of any group. And I know the family knows that and appreciates it. And again, it was when Mr. Carano was alive, he was so bullish, and he always says, "Take care of the bowlers, Rick. Take care of the bowlers." I used to hear that. And Glenn, I was going to say something to Ryan. Ryan, when you were in that suit throwing your ball, Glenn, one time I'll never forget. Dad will remember this in Baton Rouge when Glenn threw the ball and his hamstring kind of blew. That if you remember that? He was a good sport about it, but even a quarterback goes down. And as you said, the family's so sports orientated. You've heard of Gina Carano. She's was an MMA fighter. I know you guys probably know who she is, and she's in The Mandalorian right now. But they all are involved with bowling. Glenn loves to go over every Christmas, and he has a bowling tournament over there, and it makes everybody get out and bowl, and all his friends. But the family as a whole absolutely believes in bowling. The downtown, the stadium was Mr. Carano's vision. And I trust me, it has, thank gosh, the other generations in the family and in Reno understand the importance, and we're so lucky that the family took to bowling like this, and again, both the men and the women. It's been fantastic for us, and I can't say enough about the family support for USBC.
Ryan, same question for you, Mr. Gaughan.
Yeah, told. So he built his first casino in 1978, which is the Barbary Coast, which is now the Cromwell, on Flamingo and Las Vegas Boulevard. It's a 200-room hotel. Could never fit a bowling center. But his very next hotel, 1986, was the Gold Coast. And he just told the story the other day because we were sitting at lunch talking about bowling. And the master plan had been casino and then an expansion bowling off that west end. And they were doing bang-up casino business, and they needed more casino space. He says, "What am I going to do?" And Charlie Silverman, forever architect for Mr. Gaughan for a long time, said, "Put it on the second floor." He said, "What, are you crazy?" So they put it on the second floor, and they did double layer concrete to try to minimize the sound. Well, apparently concrete reverberated the sound, and it made it way worse. So they've learned some lessons over the year. But 1986, so he's opened 5 bowling centers, 64 lanes in our normal bowling center, 60 lanes in the tournament center. I'm not exactly sure. Orleans, I know, have taken a few lanes out, Gold Coast and Suncoast, but 60 lanes apiece, you're talking 300 lanes. At one time, hasn't been verified recently, but as a single operator, he's put more lanes down than any other single operator anywhere. And I'll tell you, I'll never forget, he got inducted into the Billiards and Bowling Hall of Fame, and he was so excited about it. I mean, he just couldn't believe it. And he's in the Sports Hall of Fame here. He's in the PRCA Hall of Fame. But we flew to West Virginia, inducted into the Hall of Fame at the Greenbrier, got back on the plane and flew home. And he tells the story all the time, and all the people he's in this Hall of Fame with. And it's meant so. He knows how important bowling was to his early success, Gold Coast, Suncoast, Orleans. And so he knows how important bowlers are to his career, and I think he treats them in that light. I think he same comment as Mr. Carano. Take care of the bowlers. They've always been there for us. They're always going to be there for us, and we're always going to be there for them. And the Carano family. We've been around them quite a bit. I got a UNLV quarterback here, Steve Stallworth. So they talk quite a bit. But just two wonderful families, and I think it's the same thing. I think that bowler appreciates that family style that we operate our casinos, as opposed to maybe a little more corporate, if you will. And I think they're going to be more comfortable in those types of environments, and I think they're going to have more fun, and we can do a lot more for them. So that's the story.
I want to thank you both for hitting on that, because I think a lot of folks I don't think really understand that building two stadiums, one a bowling plaza, if you will, in the National Bowling Stadium, but to have the 4 sites and be able to think about that and understand it, put a business model together, it takes a lot of support, and it's just amazing that these really are the only 2, if you really think about it, and they're the original 2. So really appreciate that. John Mark, you got anything for these guys?
Rick, did you mention that your wife is an ICU nurse?
Yes.
Yeah.
I call her Nurse Ratchet. That's a joke in the family.
I'm just curious, what has the experience been like for her then? Because she sort of finds herself on the front lines of this thing in her profession.
She is, I think working in a hospital in that environment, they're nervous anyway, just because of all the things that can run rampant. And you know what I'm talking about. So they're always forever worried about certain things. But she's she just says she stresses diligence. When she goes to work, she has to have that. They issued them all the special equipment. Thank God, the hospital she worked at has not had any shortages, and it's there has been some patients in there, but it's not too bad. But again, they're on guard everywhere. I mean, you see it. I think it's we're going to get there on the new norm. I think you guys are going to address that, but I think it's safer to go to the hospital now, she said, than it's ever been, because they've tripled up on the cleaning. And it was interesting. I have to get hip surgery, and they postponed it, but now they're back on. And if you're ever gonna go in anywhere now, it's the cleaning. I think and I know that Ryan will probably agree with me on this. The Gaming Control Board is going to hold us to the 10-year hospital standards of cleanliness. And I think that's a good thing for everybody. And my wife said she loves it. She loves this level of cleanliness. But again, a lot of people see it differently, and she gets upset about it because she says, have courtesy, just wear a mask. That's all. And it's not easy telling everybody to do it because they all have their individual freedom. So quite interesting in this house.
Yeah.
Excuse me, guys. I wanted to touch on something and kind of put you on the spot here a little bit, little open-mindedness here. Maybe something that we didn't have planned for ahead of time. But you guys are smart guys. You guys are in positions that you're in because you guys obviously know how to navigate waters. You guys have learned about bowling through your endeavors and cooperation with the USBC and other bowling events. Being fans of bowling, you both said before the show that you've been watching this show and keeping up with bowling. Is there anything that you would like to see bowling do or take us to the next level, or any ideas that you guys might have, putting you on the spot here, just in regards to bowling?
I'm going to call Rick after this, because Rick, when this Caesars deal comes down and the championship and women's championships are here, we need to get some of your customers into some of those Caesars properties, and then we'll shuttle them down here, let them bowl, and send them back your way. I've been thinking this whole time that this might have some we might be able to boost these numbers a little bit, Chad. I don't know.
I like the thinking of putting some smart folks together.
It's a match made in heaven. Ryan and I we're going to talk about the North-South Challenge, just like the UNLV UNR football game. It's a big deal. This could be so much fun with you guys. And like I said, I think we're all going to have to be super aggressive in that arena to bring new business and to get people activate. And, a couple new tournaments or things that, Chad's been great to advise us. And Ryan, I think you got a lot of knowledge, but we should all be probably thinking about the future and what we can do. And I think great opportunity to find some more for bowling and more opportunity for bowlers to have a reason to bowl.
Yeah, and that's actually a nice segue to my next topic. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about here is the Open and Women's Championships are only part of the bowling, that takes place in your facilities. And it's always amazing to me. I know my first trip to Reno and the National Bowling Stadium was the FIQ Championships in '95. I was there as a spectator. We weren't even bowling. But when you think about all the world events that take place, but then professional events, both facilities have had the World Series of Bowling with PBA events, the U.S. Open. I want a specific, and I'll ask the question after I show the video, but just as an example, JT, if you don't mind the Francois video, and then we'll pop up Ryan, and then I'll get to a question there. But this is the U.S. Open a few years ago at South Point with Francois Lavoie's closing 300. Ryan knows what's coming here.
One more. I say yes. I absolutely say yes. For a piece of history, young man.
$10,000 bonus. You better believe he did it. A perfect 300 game.
Yeah,
That was so exciting.
I know. And JT, I had him pull a clip, Ryan, but I got a question for Rick on this too. JT, pop up that clip of Ryan and Dale Elis from LVE. I remembered this like it was yesterday, so I wanted to ask you specifically about it.
Orleans, right? Was that the Orleans?
No, it's at your place. But
okay.
look at Ryan, and that's
Oh
Ryan.
yeah, same thing there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Dale Elis from the Las Vegas events. Neither one of them lifetime bowlers that are just stoked. This athlete, this unbelievable bowler wins the U.S. Open, bowls 300 in the semifinal match. And look at these two guys. And I always say bowling transcends. When you think of bowling as a sport, these are the images that I always kind of go to as, again, two business leaders in the Vegas community. And so I'd like to ask each of you, you've been front row for a lot of events. You've held them in your facilities. You've watched some of the highest levels of bowling that you could have, in addition to, walking through the bowling center, Ryan, and seeing some league bowling. But Rick, you've been doing it for a long time. FIQs, women's events, Masters, Queens. Just kind of share with everybody, a memory or two of that, sitting front row for these events. And Ryan, I hope you don't mind the picture there, but I just think it tells an incredible story. But Rick, if you want to go first, and then Ryan, you can follow up.
Sure. It's funny, and Glenn Carano and I would sit at all these events, as you know, and we always love to play. It's kind of like rock, paper, scissors. We would pick each shot. Is it going to be a strike or a spare? And we both have a hand sign, just kidding with each other, going, "I'm betting that's a strike. I'm betting that's a spare." And it's been so exciting for us. And again, it's when you're down to the final two or whatever, when you're in those bowl offs. We actually remember we did bowling out on the street in the wind in downtown Reno, and we're not afraid of anything. But I'll tell you, those were the exciting things. The bowling out on the street was unbelievable. I remember that. But gosh, it's there's so many of them, but it's exciting. It's like it's adrenaline rush almost too. And like I said, we just love sitting there and watching those events, because you can have fun at every one of them. And we love it. I can't even remember one that's specific, but I loved them all, because when we knew when that event was successful like that too, it was good for all of us. Bowling, Reno, Vegas, all of us are winning when you guys throw those successful events. And gosh, let's keep doing them. We got to figure that out, because it's the best. I believe it's one of the best things we do.
Love it, Ryan.
That was probably the most exciting. I was thinking about it when I knew the clip was coming. There was another one at the Orleans that Dale and I was at. I thought there was a separate video coming, but I'm jumping. I think I'm about this far off the ground, and then the image, I'm barely off my toes, and just cheering because something happens. You hate when you see stuff like that. But anyway, so the perfect game. I don't know. Maybe a perfect game for a pitcher It's different than kicking the winning field goal or running the last touchdown in or making a last second shot because the buildup's not there. When you're pitching a baseball game, the buildup starts coming, the pressure starts mounting, the excitement is coming, and you can't believe what you're watching. Same with the 300 game, 5th frame, 6th frame, 7th frame, 8th frame. And then it's got to be one of the most fun things to watch in sports because it lasts so much longer than a game-winning shot. Ball goes up, ball goes in, everybody piles on the guy, and it's over. So I think that was, and it happens throughout the events. I tell you, there was a guy, I'm not going to get his name, and I sat up there and watched the entire time. And we do military bowling in one of the leagues. They're in wheelchairs, and I'm going, wow, I got to see this. And all of a sudden, I'm going, these guys are bowling 240, 260, and a guy bowls a perfect game. And I'm going to tell you what, if I could have ran and tackled this guy, I'd have knocked him out of his wheelchair. I'd probably got arrested. But it was just but the military bowling after the championships is my favorite because we're heavy military. My boss is on Air Force Civilian Oversight Committee. He's always supported the Nellis Air Force Base, and we love having our military guys here. And to watch those guys and the camaraderie they have there, being bonded through such a thing as military service is just wonderful to see. So there are great moments in bowling, and we need to share those. I know it was a little bit joking a little bit with Kingpin, but we started doing a show here with Taylor Sheridan, who created Yellowstone, who also created The Last Cowboy. And you'd be amazed what those shows have done. So obviously all of our partners in the arena, one of my best friends runs Resistol. Hat sales are off the charts. And it's because of the popularity of some of those shows and rodeo in general. Fan viewership is up, and contestants entering, they were on a decline for a long time. You couldn't get bareback riders. And what's the bunkhouse kid's name that got on a bareback horse in Yellowstone? Well, all of a sudden, people want to be bareback riders again. And I think there's got to be some sort of media component, and if it's a Kingpin too, and even if it's funny, but including some of those exciting moments and showing why bowling is exciting and anyone can do it, right? That's the other thing about bowling that everyone has to understand. Everyone can't play basketball. Everybody can't play football. Everyone can bowl, and they got to understand that. They got to understand that it's a pretty good time. It's kind of like golf. You don't have to be good at it to have fun. To have fun doing it. And I think those are probably the things that I would add on is trying to keep this bowling train going and then growing the base as well.
I appreciate that. The thing that I take away from that, and it's important, is that I know you guys have sitting in those seats for all those years. You love bowling, but you also have a respect for it that I think really transcends other sports, which I think is great. As usual, John, Mark, and Mike, we're going to go a little over today. I'm sure nobody's surprised by that, but do you guys have a last question for Ryan and Rick before we cut them loose?
I'd like to share a moment actually going back. I know we asked the guests about moments, but in 1999, I was bowling the Junior World Team Challenge, which was an awesome event in Reno, made it out from the St. Louis area and had a blast bowl in that event. And the other thing that was happening is you guys were smart. You had the PBA stop at the same time that was going on at that same facility. And Mike Miller bowled 300, and all the kids were in the stands up above from the World Team Challenge watching that. It was gold pins. And for those of us that know Mike Miller over the years and all the antics that he did, and I see Rick down there laughing already, Mike Miller's 300 game at the National Bowling Stadium in 1999 is my moment. And the last comment I have for you guys is just a heartfelt thank you from all of us in bowling, because even though it brings revenue to your facilities, you guys also are very generous in the way that you pump money in and take a risk and gamble yourselves on our sport. And I know it's paying off for you, but in a pandemic like this or something like this that's going on, I know that you guys are faced with so much right now. But from all of us in bowling and for what you've done and how you keep championing our sport and keep trying to take it forward and following it and loving it and being part of it, just thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
John, Mark?
Rick and Ryan, I'm wondering what your message is to your guests upon reopening. What do you want them to know about how the experience at your respective facilities might differ when it is deemed that it's safe to reopen and welcome them back?
You know, everybody, and Ryan mentioned his plan. We're getting ready to release our plan, but we've already seen everybody's plans. But you know, what's interesting is, as you know, although the environment may change, the customers will still be number one. And I mean, when I say change, it's just it's kind of like remember when TSA got installed in the airports. I just think you'll see a new level there. But we're so professional. I really believe in hospitality, and I know Michael Gahn, and I know the Carano family, what they're going to expect. And it's going to be safety for the employees, and it's going to be safety first for the guests. And trust me, you'll see a heightened, I call it a heightened clean the clean, as they would say, clean the clean, to make sure that everything is just perfect and we're following the guidelines. And what'll be, I think, interesting too is if we're able to proceed with the the open, which we're so excited about. It'll be the guidelines are going to be by that time pretty much ironed out, and it should be flowing pretty well. Again, that's all we think about is how we can make it user friendly yet safety first. So that's the most important.
I think a lot of your viewers are probably actually wondering, and very quickly, the experience. When I come back, what will I see? And yes, everybody's putting their plans out, and all of them are 90% the same, and there's some little tweaks here or there on some things that they might be doing differently or leaving out, or we have an arena and equestrian center, so none of their plans have that in it. But for the most part, you're going to see kind of the same thing and in the very beginning, and then pay attention to who keeps that up. And I think some of the things that we're putting in place will be required going forward, because I think they're good ideas, right? Just for general cleanliness. And we've always prided ourselves on cleanliness and great food. Michael Gahn, cleanliness of the property and offering great food are two of his staples. So we've always prided ourselves on that. But there are some things that will stay in place. Some of them will go away. Our employees are not going to wear masks forever. But when you walk in the South Point, any employees customer facing will be in masks for a time determined by data and information down the pipeline. There will be thermal scans when you walk in the door, and unobtrusive. We received them last week. We're installing them. It's a pretty impressive device that's going to take your temperature when you walk by. You're not going to know what happened. And if someone shows a fever, we'll address that situation. When you walk through the casinos, there's only 3 chairs at a blackjack game. Every other slot machine will be turned off. So we're going to give our customers the ability to social distance as best as possible, and that includes the bowling center. No tournaments until August, so we're talking daily with those guys in the military bowling to see how we're going to handle the event. But in the open bowling, in the beginning, it'll be every other lane. The balls will be sanitized on the racks. The balls will go to the ball return, and we're asking our customers, when you're done, just leave them there, so we can walk up, mask and gloves, sanitize those balls, and get them back on the rack. So when you walk in, anything you touch, and then the entire lane will be sanitized after each use. We talked about taking every other seat, but whoever you're bowling with, that's your group, right? So just make sure you're comfortable with that group. You know where they've been, and then we'll seat every other lane for the foreseeable future, and that's the experience that's going to be. So it'll be a little different, but we're trying to make it as pain-free on the guests as possible, but also as safe as possible. And how long it lasts, everybody says, what about the NFR? What about So I'm trying to get through June and July right now, and then we'll see, because I don't know. Is it going to last a month, 2 months, 3 months? What about Raider Stadium? When will there be fans? I don't know. All I know is we're going to do everything in our power to get open. I don't think we're going to see Memorial Day. Some people are talking Memorial Day. I think it's almost, I don't want to say irresponsible, but the pent-up demand, we have to control that. If you open Memorial Day, the biggest party weekend of the year, you might have some bad outcomes. And so we do think that June 1, that's the date we've been planning on for quite some time. And we'll be ready to go June 1. If they let us go a few days before that, we'll probably make that happen as well. But we're getting close. And I think and I hope we get open safely, and then we're able to kind of work our way out of this slowly but surely. And the women's championship, by then, I hope we're pretty close back to normal. But we'll have to see what happens.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Just in a quick close, I just want to say, both of you too, and to the folks that are still tuned in, I mean, just think about how they answered those questions, right? And thinking about it, and Ryan's running a casino business, a property, a hotel, and he also has a general knowledge of how the bowling balls are going to be disinfected. That just tells you how bowling plays in his world. And Ryan, we really appreciate the interest that you've taken in our sport. Rick, yours, all of these years, buddy, being a friend of bowling, both of you. I really do appreciate you being here. Certainly proud of the relationship. I know we're business partners, but just want to also thank you guys for your friendship. Been a lot of great conversations over the last few years, and I look forward to having them into the future. So stay healthy and safe, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having us. Rick, let's talk.
Hey, I can't wait. Hey, the good news is technology is going to help us and science will help it. We're going to win this, and it's going to be safe for everybody someday soon. Trust me.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Man, you think about the information that we just, communicated back and forth. Those two guys are amazing. And again, when you think about the partnerships, there's a lot. This is all contractual. There's these things that we negotiate and all the things that go with it. But the thing that makes it easier is they just love and respect our sport, and they know the value of it to their cities and their properties, and so it's always amazing. But Mike, any perspective about maybe what you learned or you take away today?
I think for me, just doing this show in general, Chad, and your willingness to want to do this, I think everybody's getting a bird's eye view of just the people that bowling interacts with on a very high level, from city to city, from event to whatever it may be. And I feel very connected in the bowling industry. But when you bring two guys on like we did today that I've never really met or took the time or interest in what they bring to bowling, their decisions that they make in rooms that I don't even know about really impacts all of us. And that's what I mean, it's just, I kind of got to take it all in, just thinking about the things that these guys have done for bowling. Mike Moniak and Michael Gaughan and Ryan getting together about, hey, we've got 80 lanes. Do we want to build 80 more and take on all this debt to bring in an open championships and other events, and how that was a no-brainer? 45 minutes to make that decision.
Yep, $35 million private investment.
That's
true story. Yeah, I appreciate that perspective, and I just share a couple stories that go along with it. And again, I make that point about Ryan thinking about how they're going to disinfect the house balls. That just shows you how invested bowling is to their properties. I mean, it's just amazing when you think about it. But one of my first trips into Reno to talk about the Open and Women's Championships, when I first got this job, the first thing that we were talking about was renegotiating some of the contracts. And one of the parts that were featured in there was the renovations that are currently taking place. And I'm sitting with Joe Kelly from the RSCBA at the time, and Rick Murdock and Glenn. And Rick starts talking about moving the stairs back at the stadium, and how they're planning on giving our bowlers more room down in the bowlers area. These are the types of details that these guys are thinking about, even though they have their own businesses to run that are separate. And when you think about that, to have partners like that, it's pretty amazing. So Mike, I appreciate you saying that, because I don't think, generally speaking, I don't think people realize how many folks really are in our corner and know it and believe it and live it just like we do. So thanks for that. John Mark, you got a perspective or a learning?
Everything you just said, Chad, points to something really important that I think we learned from Ryan and Rick both today, which is that their profession is to anticipate and fulfill the needs of their customers. And in the aftermath of this, when they determine that it's safe to reopen, what is that need going to be? Well, principally, it's going to be the need to feel like, as a customer, they're patronizing a space that is safe, a space that is clean. That was always a need that people in Ryan and Rick's shoes were aware of and going out of their way to fulfill. And now they're going to go even further out of the way to demonstrate just how much they value that aspect of the needs that a customer brings to their facilities. And I think this is why I'm more recently hearing from proprietors a craving to have a more influential part of the discussion as to the reopening process for small businesses from coast to coast, because this is a major part of their profession, is fulfilling and anticipating their customers' needs. We are all aware of what that primary need is going to be at the end of this, and that's been their job. It's a responsibility to their customers that they are fully aware of. And it's going to be interesting to see how the reopening process goes when you have professionals like Ryan and Rick overseeing them.
Yeah, and just another great point, right? We're hearing a customer experience. We've been talking about the bowling experience, right? And how rare it is for somebody to go bowling and walk out and they didn't have a good time, right? And you just kind of process that. But yeah, the customer experience is another one of those phrases that's making a comeback, and we're having a lot of conversations about it, whether it be in bowling centers, these casinos, or all the other things that we're doing. But it was always going to be about that, right? Whether somebody had a good time, what they experienced while they were there, and it's just going to be heightened. I love what Ryan said about some of these things that, are going to move forward that maybe weren't in place just because they're good ideas, right? So the things that we learn and the things that we take away. But I learned something from those guys every time I sit with them. And I just, again, tell another kind of interesting story. My first trip into Vegas to walk through what was going to be the South Point Bowling Plaza. And I'm sitting with Ryan and Mike Moniak. And for those of you that have seen me when the stadium opened, I gave a pretty impassioned speech about Mike Moniak and how incredible it was that one of bowling's own, I remember it like it was yesterday, that we talked about how one of bowling's own was there to back bowling in this big, larger business world and the impact of it. Mike's really responsible, for all of that, working with Mr. Gone. But we're in there, we're walking through the facility. It's just a slab, there's no lanes, but you can see where the cutout is. And Ryan was essentially asking, hey, what do you need? What is it more that you need? We're going to build this thing out, but what are you thinking about that we might need? And so we're talking about signage and all of these things, but it's always a helpful relationship to figure out new ways. And some of the things they do on the equestrian side, you would not believe without seeing it personally. When he talked about the NFR and the rodeo comes in December, I was there for a partner visit. He took me out back and showed me where they store all the bulls and the stalls, and walking through these world-class bulls, which are basically in the back parking lot, but the security and everything that went in with it, it's just fascinating to have a guy like Ryan and Rick be so much of an expert in all of these other ways, but then also having them help us with bowling. I mean, it just goes to show you how what a great impact that the relationships can have. And again, I know we could go all day, and I appreciate you guys being here. But do you have any? You want to give everybody an update on what you guys have coming this week in your perspective worlds of Inside Bowling and Bowlers Journal?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, next week, the PBA League Draft is Sunday night, and that's a big deal in bowling for all of us with the PBA, and we're going to be tuned into that one. And on Monday, the guys from the Sweep the Rack podcast are going to be on our show Monday, and Matt Farber, myself, Big Mike, and Rob, we're going to dissect the PBA League Draft on Monday and give grades for every single pick. So if you're a bowling purist, you're going to want to tune in. And if you're not, you might want to skip till the rest of the week. And we have some other folks lined up next week. We've got Daria Pyoke and Verity Crawley and Diana Zaviavila are going to be on the program on the same day. They booked that through Matt Farber. Bill O'Neill's going to be joining us amongst other guests. One other thing that I did want to say about this show, though, is we had a lot of people watching today, and I was monitoring the comments throughout the show. If you see me look over to the right, I'm looking at my other screen, and just two comments stood out to me. One is Jonathan Thompson, who watches every bowling live stream, said, "Hi again, Mike Flanagan. Rick Murdock reminds me of Ted Danson," and that brought a chuckle to my face. And just all the different people that are watching, and even a guy like Rick Ramsey was tuning in today and thought we had a great show. So if Rick Ramsey is telling us we had a great show, I think we're on to great things, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I also was following in the chat, and was going to hit this at the end, but I'll go ahead and hit it now. But I want to hit on two things that you said there too in your preview. There are also folks that are looking for rules types questions and those types of things in the chat. I would encourage everyone to send an email to rules@bowl.com. You'll get a rules counselor to help you within a couple hours. And I apologize that we don't get to a lot of that, but we really only have an hour, and I'm laughing because we've yet to do it in an hour. But we do want to make sure that we satisfy all the member questions that come in too. So please send us an email separately or rules@bowl.com. And Mike, the draft is a big deal this week, and I'll be interested to see it all play out. And I know that you'll remember you and I participated in a draft of ourselves. I always think about the world of sports, right, and how these teams are constructed. And the Last Dance is going on ESPN right now with the Bulls, and that team was so amazing. And so I liken that to any part of this draft that doesn't end up with Tommy Jones, Bill O'Neill, and Norm Duke's team raising that cup. I would question just having it be formed with those three. So there are some great combinations that are going to take place as part of that draft. And I can't wait, one, to watch the draft. Can't wait to see it mature. And then, most importantly for me, can't wait for the competitions. John Mark, you want to share a preview?
Yeah, Mike, you mentioned Daria Payok and Bill O'Neill. Those are two guests we had on the Bowlers Journal podcast last week. If anyone missed those, you can go to the Bowlers Journal podcast on SoundCloud. We have some other big guests coming up this weekend and next week, some of the biggest stars on the respective tours, PBA and PWBA. So check us out on SoundCloud, the Bowlers Journal podcast there. And we're working on a big story now about going forward about what the reopening experience is actually like for proprietors, because we've been talking about what it will be like. Well, now proprietors are starting to trickle in with actually reopening their centers here in Florida. That's happening in Georgia to some extent. It's happening and elsewhere around the country. We're going to start seeing more of that in the coming weeks. Now it's time for us to know, well, how is that going? What is the demand that they're actually seeing? We can theorize about it, but now they're actually going to have the doors open and see what, if any, pent-up demand is existing for them, how social distancing is going for them, and other ramifications of the unusual environment in which they're going to be reopening. So that's going to be the big story that we'll be hammering away at here at Bowlers Journal in the weeks ahead.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for what you're doing on this show, but also in the larger bowling world and in telling the stories. Somebody, put me onto this a lot of years ago. Whoever tells the best story wins. And the idea that we can continue to tell these bowling stories in competing with the time and energy of everybody else to watch our sport, I think is a wonderful thing. Want to thank Rick Murdock from the city of Reno and the Row. I want to thank Ryan Growney from South Point Casino for being here today. What a great show. Thanks for all the information and the input. We just want to remind everybody, we're going to have a great show next week. It'll be a little bit like this show, two folks that are icons in our sport for their bowling. And again, I hit on it a little bit earlier, but they're USBC, Hall of Famers, incredible careers. They turned into bowling proprietors. They're also small business owners in this world of COVID-19. And I just share a perspective that we'll cover with both of them. I've been lucky and fortunate to attend a lot of Hall of Fame ceremonies in the last 20 years or so. It's one of the just really unique and cool things that I get to do. And I got asked a while back, for some perspective on that. And Dave Husted's Hall of Fame speech has always stood out as one of the most special moments I've been a part of. And I'm excited to talk to him about that. But to just give you a little preview of several quotes from Dave from that speech, he brought his entire family on stage and he said, "We are in the bowling business. We are bowlers. We are soon to be fourth generation owners. I couldn't be more proud of that. Bowling has meant everything to us, and I wouldn't trade anything for it in the world." So I look forward to you guys being here next week. Look forward to having Dave and Mike as part of the show. Thanks everybody that's watching. Please share it out. We'll hope to spread some of the bowling good that's going on and the information to a larger audience as we go forward. So with that, thanks again to all the first responders, the medical, everything that's going on in the world, the nurses, everybody. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week, bowling.